Welcome back. I'm here again with Candace Czarny, author of First Cause. If you're just finding us, here's the thread. Last time, Candace showed us how anger, even anger with no obvious reason, is actually information, and how getting to what she calls first cause, the moment before you react, changes everything. Today, we go one step further, into a word she left us on: sovereignty. Candace, welcome back.
Thank you. This is the conversation everything else has been building toward, so I'm glad we're here.
Last time, we ended on a word: sovereignty. You said getting to first cause is the doorway to it. Start there. What do you mean by sovereignty?
Sovereignty is the simplest and most radical thing I teach. It means you are the author of your own experience, not your circumstances, not your history, not the people around you, not whatever mood the day hands you. You. In philosophy, a first cause is the origin, the thing everything else flows from. In your own life, you are that origin. You are first cause.
That's a big claim. Most people feel the opposite, like life happens to them and they just react.
And they're not wrong about how it feels. Most people live their whole lives in reaction. Something happens, they respond automatically. Someone pushes, they push back. The mood arrives, they obey it. They believe they have no choice. And here's the thing, as long as you're living inside the reaction, that's true. There is no choice inside the reaction. That's what makes it a reaction.
So where does the choice come from? How does anyone get out of pure reaction?
So where does the choice come from? How does anyone get out of pure reaction? The moment before. It always comes back to this. There's a space right before you react where you're present and fully yourself. First cause. And in that space, for the first time, there's a gap between what happened and what you do next. And in that gap lives the single most important thing a human being has: choice. When you can get to the moment before, you're not obligated to react at all. You can choose to respond. You can choose your state. You can even choose to be at peace when everything says you shouldn't be.
Let's be careful here, because that can sound like denial, like you're telling people to just choose to be happy and ignore reality.
I'm glad you said that, because it's the opposite. Sovereignty is not pretending you feel fine. It's not slapping a smile on pain. A sovereign person feels everything: the anger, the grief, the fear, fully. The difference is they're not run by any of it. They feel the anger, and then they choose what to do with it. They feel the fear, and then they choose whether to let it make the decision.
Reaction says, the feeling happens, and then I automatically act. Sovereignty says, I feel it, and then I choose. That gap is where your entire freedom lives.
You connect this directly back to the last conversation. The two angry women. How does sovereignty change their story? Completely. Both women were living in reaction. The environment pushed, and their anger pushed back automatically. They felt like victims of their own emotions, like the anger was happening to them. When they reached the moment before, the anger became information. But step 2 is the bigger one. Once they could read the anger, they realized they could choose what to do about it. The first woman chose to stop giving from an empty place. The second woman chose to arrange her life around her own knowing instead of everyone else's expectations. Neither of them was reacting anymore. That's the moment they became sovereign.
So, sovereignty isn't a feeling. It's a capability. Something you build.
Exactly right. It's not a personality type. It's not something you're born with or without. It's a capacity you build the same way you build any strength, rep by rep. Every time you catch the moment before and choose instead of react, that's one rep, and the reps compound. The gap gets wider. The choice gets easier, until one day you're living most of your life from choice instead of reaction. And that is a genuinely different life. You become the stable center, the one who's clear in the storm, the one others come to when everything's spinning. Not because you stopped feeling, because you stopped being run by what you feel.
Is there a cost to this? You've hinted before that sovereignty asks something of people.
There is, and I always say it honestly. When you become sovereign, you can no longer blame your circumstances for your state. That's freeing, and it's demanding at the same time, because now you're responsible, not for what happens to you, but for who you are in response. Most people quietly prefer to stay in reaction because reaction lets them off the hook. Sovereignty hands you the hook back. But I've never met a single person who built genuine sovereignty and wished they'd stayed a reaction to their environment. Because on the other side of that responsibility is the thing everyone wants: freedom. Not freedom from hard circumstances. Nobody gets that. Freedom in them. The freedom to choose who you are no matter what's happening around you.
If someone's listening and they want this, where do they actually start?
You start where everything starts, the moment before. You build your daily relationship with First Cause in the clear place underneath the noise. 5 minutes, real quiet, real honesty. And you begin to notice the gap, the tiny space between what happens and what you do next. At first, it's a sliver, then it's a room you can stand in. And in that room, you're sovereign. So here's what I want to leave you with. You are not a reaction to your life. You are the author of it. You always had the choice. You just needed to find the moment where the choice lives. That moment is First Cause, and it's the beginning of your sovereignty. Start by finding out exactly where you stand. Find out the first cause of your problem. It may not be what you think. Take the free assessment of the 5 dimensions of your inner life. 5 minutes, completely free, no email required. consciousnesstrack.app/quiz. I'm Candace. Thank you for spending this time with me.